What's up, everybody? I'm Matt.
And I'm Beth.
And today we're going to be reviewing the interior in the 2024 Toyota Grand Highlander. So the Grand Highlander is this new step up above the regular Highlander. It doesn't really share anything with the regular Highlander, including the looks, which are completely different. But the big deal here is that you have almost 6 extra inches of third row legroom. You have more cargo space, and you just have a roomier interior overall. And it really makes this one of the ultimate road trip vehicles, especially, if you want to have lots of space. And so, as far as the interior here in this, now this one is a fully loaded Platinum trim, and the Platinum trim is available this is the Hybrid Max, which is the most powerful engine option. You can also get the Platinum in the regular gas-powered version as well. But this interior is really nice and feels well worth this vehicle's fully loaded, top-of-the-line, as-tested price of about $60,000.
And it's definitely really nice, pretty luxurious in here. It makes you feel like you're in a luxury vehicle and you just have a Toyota, so I think it's pretty nice.
Yeah, and if that price does sound a little bit high, it's just because of that Hybrid Max thing. If you get one of the Platinum gas ones, it'll fall right in the $53,000 to $55,000 price range as a fully loaded Telluride, Palisade, Pilot, things like that. So very comparable and very, very competitive, I think. And yeah, it is. I really love this brown leather too. It's a really nice look.
Yeah, I'm never crazy about brown leather, but I actually kind of like this one. I don't think it's terrible to look at. I really like the color.
Yeah, so it's just nice they offer colors for sure. And anyway, so as far as the main components here goes, so first off, you have some really nice, soft, comfortable seats. They're perforated leather, and here on the Hybrid Max versions, you also have this ultra suede material in the middle. If you were to go for a non-Hybrid Max Platinum, it would just be a full leather seat, and so it just comes down to personal preference there. But these seats are still really great. They're heated and ventilated here in these upper trims, and they did a great job of cooling us down here on these hot summer days, and the comfort is just top notch. I love driving around in these seats all week.
Yeah, they're really great, and I will say that the passenger luckily has all power controls, so that's really nice.
And on the driver's side here, you have all the usual adjustments as well, including lumbar. You do have lumbar adjustment here. You don't get that on the passenger side. That is one exclusion, but yeah, great to have those power seats there. And then moving on to the steering wheel here in the upper trims, it's a heated wheel, which is great. Has a nice 9-3 grip, little 10 and 2 notches, and just a few buttons here on it, not overboard with the buttons, and just really simple and straightforward. You also see this little driver monitor here, and that's pretty cool. So it'll enable some low-speed traffic jam assist driving, where it'll do some stop and go automated driving there at very low speeds. But then on top of that, it also has a cool feature in the first for a Toyota where it has facial recognition. Now you have to opt into that, so it will not do that unless you tell it to. But if you do opt into that, then it can scan your face and it can pre-adjust all the mirror settings, your radio stations, and just your whole driver profile just based off of it recognizing your face, which is a really cool thing if you're into that, and great that they offer that as well. And that'll also alert you if it detects any kind of driver inattention or anything like that as well, as far as the safety equipment goes. But moving on to the gauges here, you have some really nice digital gauges. There are 12.3-inch display here in these upper trims. Now if you were to go down to a base XLE trim, you're going to get an 8-inch digital gauge cluster, a little smaller, but still does all the same basic stuff, just a little less pretty. But the gauges in both are great, so there's really no problem with going for that base trim either. It's still really nice. But these gauges have a lot of customization. I really love how you can customize what's shown in the middle there, and you can even have a little map view, which is great. And then on the left and the right, you can customize those things as well, and you can even customize the look of them, so you can have the gauges look a little different depending on your mood or what you prefer. And just really nicely done gauges. You also have a nice large head-up display there. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, you have this 12.3-inch touchscreen as standard. Even on the base trim you get this, which is awesome, and again further amplifies the appeal of that base model. There's those XLEs, like I just talked about in my original Grand Highlander review a few months back. That's really one of the strongest values I think in this segment, and so it's great this screen is standard. It does have wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, which is something like, for example, the Kia Telluride, Hyundai Palisade, those all have a wired in connection. You have to plug your phone in every time. This, you don't have to. You just hop in here and it's instantly on the second you turn the car on, basically, and it works great. And Toyota's own infotainment system also works really well. It's nice and simplified for this new generation, so it's really straightforward, easy to use, and it's also paired up with this JBL stereo here in these upper trims, which is really good. But I actually sampled the base stereo again in an XLE on my first drive in the Grand Highlander here, and that stereo is also really good too. So This is certainly better, but if you aren't someone who must have the best stereo possible, again, no problem going for that bass trim. It's actually really solid for the sound quality too.
One thing I will add though is that the volume knob is very much driver-centric. Very excited about the driver here, and I just wish that it was in the middle so it was a little bit more accessible to the passenger. It is a very large reach because this is a large car, but it's still usable. I just don't love reaching when we're driving, and yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that's kind of a strange choice because Toyota does have the volume knob in different places in different vehicles. In stuff like the Toyota Crown or some of the Lexus models, you have it in the middle, which would be great. Everyone's happy. It's, you know, right in the middle. Or even the new Prius has it all the way over on the passenger side. And I think you could argue the Prius is a more driver-centric car than the Grand Highlander, which is family-oriented. So why, and it's the same screen, by the way, too, so I don't know why they chose to put the volume knob on this side for a family-centric vehicle when you have the volume controls right here on the steering wheel especially.
But at least you have the JBL logo here, so I mean, that's really nice. I love that aesthetically, so we can know that it's perfect, and we paid for the JBL speakers here. I love that.
A nice reminder. Yeah, so they could easily just swap that for the volume knob. There is a little bit of space there. I think they could totally do that. Fingers crossed, maybe for a refresh, they move the volume knob placement. But aside from that, it all is really well done, and you also have nice simple knobs for your climate controls. I love how you have this screen within the knob, so it's a more efficient use of space there, and really straightforward. And then as far as other things go here, storage space is really good in the Grand Highlander. Of course, they really focused on that. This, again, being a family vehicle, a vehicle set up for long road trips and all that. You have 13 cup holders total in this vehicle, so you have a nice large pocket in the door here, and you also have the 2 cup holders in the middle like usual, and a deeper, larger bottle holder there in front of it. There's also this wireless phone charger here on these upper trims, which isn't the best. It's barely rubberized and doesn't really have much holding it in there, so don't expect your phone to, you know, charge on there super well, but you know, a nice inclusion, I guess, nonetheless, especially if you're stationary. And then, you know, you have like the center armrest, which is nice and softly padded, and I love how it does have this little opening in the middle, so we can still have our elbows on here, and it doesn't interfere. I don't have to say, hey, can you please move your elbow so I can get into this? Like, you're able to still open this up, and no one has to be inconvenienced in the slightest. And a really deep space there. They said you can actually fit a 13-inch tablet in this if you take out that little removable tray. So, I mean, a huge amount of space in there.
And I do love that it slides out instead of just folding out. I just think that that's really cool, and definitely nice way to save space.
Beyond that, you also have padding here down by your knees, which is great, and that's a really nice touch because we just complained a few weeks ago in the Honda Pilot that's all hard plastic everywhere. It doesn't have very much padding, and a lot of others in this segment don't either. And so again, when you're on a long drive and you're resting your knee up against the center console, to have that padded, it's just one of those nice little extra touches that, you know, really goes a long way in certain cases, and so really nice you have that.
And on the passenger side here, you have this nice little cubby up front in the dashboard that can fit things like your phone, some extra change or something like that, maybe a wallet. You could also throw stuff into the center console cubby here. There's just this little bit of space.
And moving on to the back seat here in the Grand Highlander, it's really nice and spacious, of course, being as large as this is. And here in the Platinum trims, you also have cooled second row seats in addition to the heating, and the cooling is a really nice touch. That's something that, you know, this offers, the Mazda CX-90 offers in its top trims, and then I believe the Telluride and the Palisade, that's about it. But that really, to me, makes this neck and neck with those as far as backseat amenities go, and it's really great that you have that.
Yeah, and I think they work pretty well. I use them in the back. I wasn't crazy about them. I don't think they're perfect, but at the same rate, I don't think any of these ventilated seats are very perfect yet. I think it's still in its infancy coming out. So I think it's still a really great thing to have.
Yeah, and so as far as space goes, it's also really good. You have plenty of space, obviously, being as large as it is, but I'm 5'9", I'm sitting behind myself with that second row seat slid all the way back as far as it'll go. I have several inches of legroom, plenty of legroom to spare there. And then with the seat slid all the way forward to give the third row as much space as possible, my knees are gently resting against that soft padded seat back there. So, you know, if you're in one of those extreme cases where the person in the third row is 6'5" or something, you know, you will be right up against the seat back there in this, you know, hypothetical scenario. But I mean, you know, obviously there's adjustments in between as well, so you can have as much or as little space as you need need. And when you look forward, you'll see they also have their own climate controls back there, as well as their own USB-C jacks there on both sides.
Also, I'll say that I don't love that there's only vents in the ceiling there. It's really nice to have those for sure, but I wish that there were some in the center console coming out. I feel like that's an easier way to keep the cabin cool, especially on a super hot day. Just having that blast of air straight on you instead of above you, I think is pretty nice.
Yeah, it would be nice if they could have incorporated that. And I think like the Telluride and the Palisade have like something here in the B pillar to give you at least something a little bit lower than just ceiling mounted stuff. But that is a very good point there for sure. And you do also have that same situation for that third row where they only have vents up there in the roof. In the middle there, you'll see a removable center console here in the versions with the Captain Series here. And that's really great because, you know, you can put some extra stuff in there, but if you don't want that, you want to have a nice pass through, you can pull that out very easily and have people walk right through the middle there. And so it's great that you have that. And then getting into that third row, the all important third row here in this segment, it's really spacious, one of the most spacious ones in this segment, if not the most spacious. And so again, me being 5'9", I have plenty of space, and even with that seat slid all the way back, I still am sitting where I'm basically having about an inch of legroom. It's not a ton of space, but I'm not having my knees jammed into the seat back, which is typically the case in most of the other three-row crossovers in this segment, again, with me being 5'9". And then, of course, you can slide that second row up a little bit more, and with that second row slid all the way up, then, I mean, I have, you know, I don't know, 4 inches of legroom. But like I said, compared to a regular Highlander, it's 5.8 inches of extra legroom there in that third row. There's also plenty of headroom, by the way, as well, so even taller people than myself will still feel comfortable. They also have their own cup holders there, as well as a little USB-C jack that's in that handle. And so the grab handle there for the third row is really nice to have. And the one thing about getting into that third row is you'll see that it requires lifting a lever still. And some of the others in the segment that are a little easier, especially for older kids to use, is the button things that you'll see in the Pilot, the Telluride, and the Palisade. They all have buttons where the seat automatically swings forward. Very easy to use for little kids. But the nice thing about having the lever here is that you can have it so that it only slides the bottom. And so, for example, with our child seat in place here, if you have a child seat in one of these second row seats, then you're able to slide that out of the way and get some kind of access to the third row there without having to sling the whole thing forward. So it allows you to have some extra flexibility there if you are someone who has car seats. If you don't have car seats, then I would still say the Pilot, Telluride, and Palisade are easier to get into the third row. But as far as levers go, this is one of the lightest ones in this segment. It's really easy to use, and it's really spring-loaded, so the second you lift that lever, the whole thing goes forward basically on its own anyway. So it is really nice and a lot easier than some of the other stuff. Like the Mazda CX-90 has a really heavy lever. You got to use a lot of muscle to get into that third row, and some of the others in this segment that aren't quite as well with their executions. So I'd say that as far as lever operated systems go, this is the best one that I've encountered. Really family friendly though overall, and I mean, even like you'll see there's sunshades there in the second row, and having this huge glass moonroof is also super great for you know, everyone, and especially those people in those back rows there. It's just a great view out. But then lastly, moving on to the cargo space here in the Grand Highlander, it's really great. And again, you have almost 5 extra cubic feet of space, I believe, over a regular Highlander, and it's a good amount of space for something in this segment. It's a pretty close to the top of the pack. Now, the only thing I will say is that beneath the floor there, you don't have a ton of space. There's a tiny little cubby there, and that's about it. And some of the best in this segment do have a little bit more. For example, the Pilot, even the Telluride, and the Palisade all have larger cubbies under that floor there. You can fit a little bit of extra bonus space in that, but I mean, this is still a ton of space, and Toyota says you can fit 7 carry-on size suitcases stacked up in that cargo space with that third row in place still. And then if you want to drop down the third row or even the second row, you know, you're going to have even more space, of course. But you know, even as a 3-row vehicle, you still have a good amount of space to actually fit, you know, most people's stuff here in this, you know. And so it's great that you know, it is that large, and I think this vehicle is exactly what Toyota needed. I think, you know, with the Sequoia not having the best cargo situation, with the Highlander, you know, being a little bit tight on space, I think this is exactly what buyers in the segment wanted from Toyota, and it's so great the Grand Highlander is here, and that it's so well done too. In addition to this having a great interior, it also drives great. It has some of the best fuel economy in the segment, some of the most power in its segment. It's fantastic. So be sure to check out the driving review as well if you want to hear what it's like to drive. And I even spent a whole week with this one, and I give even more in-depth thoughts there in those videos, so definitely stay tuned for those as well. But anyway, that's all of our thoughts here on the 2024 Grand Highlander Platinum. Let us know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Toyota for providing us here with this vehicle to review for you guys today. And yeah, thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care.